us off with welcome to American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. I'm Madeline, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. That's why we create DreamBank, an inspirational community destination and digital experience dedicated to dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, there's something for every dreamer. Our always free offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. Now, I'd like to introduce you to today's speaker. Nikki Ryberg is a career and life coach and founder of Ryberg Group LLC, bringing over 15 years of HR leadership experience to her work and so much more. And so, without further ado, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Madeline and DreamBank, so much for having me today. I am excited to discuss this topic. We will be going through resumes and AI do's and don'ts. I was just chatting with Madeline before the session started that I hope I'm up to speed on this. I feel like things in the AI world change by the day or even the hour. And so I definitely want to encourage all of you, if you have questions on my presentation or even just personal situations, professional situations you're going through with your resume when it comes to AI, please put those into the chat. We will have some time at the end for questions. So I'm going to save all questions for the end, and we will try to get to as many as we can. So with that, we will start. As Madeline mentioned, I have a HR background. So I'm a former VP of HR turned career and life coach. I have a certified professional resume certification and a certified digital career strategist, which is essentially like a LinkedIn expert. I am probably a self-described AI super fan. I haven't taken any classes on it. I haven't done any of the certifications. It's all been through trial and error. I use it both professionally as well as personally. And I've been really surprised by people's reactions to it when it comes to resumes. I've had a lot of folks that are scared to use it. They will say things like, I feel like it's cheating, or it feels unethical, or I hired you because I want to be better than AI. I didn't hire you to like work with you to learn how to use AI in the process. Like I've heard all sorts of reactions to it, or I don't even care what it's about. I don't know anything about it. I don't intend to. I just feel like AI to me is like a better form of Google, where it is so handy for writing resumes and idea generation that I'm a big fan of it. And we'll go through some things today in terms of ways I think you can use it, as well as some things to stay away from. So, with that, let's talk about the employer lens of AI. I think it's really important to think about where employers are coming from with AI because it impacts a lot of their policies and some of the things they have going on. So, the first thing that's good to know is that up to 90% of employers are using some type of an applicant tracking system. This is essentially the database where when they post job ads, your resume goes into their system. I mean, even back when I was in HR nearly 10 years ago, we had a very like non-robust, no frills ATS system that cost very little amount of money per month. And that was back then. So now there's so many more on the market. They're very economical, and it's just so simple for employers to use these. So it's important to know that that's what an applicant tracking system is, because some of the things that AI can best help you with are things like keyword scores and some of the things we'll get into later. So whether they're using an ATS or something to parse resumes, look for keywords, even if it's just control F in like a Word document, most employers are using some type of technology to help them in their recruiting process. There's even AI-based interview screeners. So if you are on this call and going through the job search process, you might be familiar with this yourselves firsthand. I had a client a couple months ago who was in like the first or second round for a position, and it was an actual AI like human-generated bot doing the interview. They looked real, they sounded real, but yet it was also very robotic. And so he had said it was really kind of uncomfortable because he's like, do I say like, "Hi, how are you? How's your day?" Like normal kind of human interaction stuff that one might do in an interview to kind of get a sense of what's their personality like. You can't do that with a robot, so it makes it a little uncomfortable. So it's just really good for all of you to know that that's something that's kind of on the scene and to be prepared for it, which is why I think getting familiar with AI is a good thing because it's not going away. The ATS essentially filters based on alignment and relevant experience to the open role. The hiring practices and trends have really yet to change in that employers like to hire people with relevant job experience, whether that's so they have to train them less, they're up to speed faster, they bring other skills and strengths to the table. There's a variety of reasons for that. That's not to say it's the only way they hire, but it definitely, when they're looking at resumes, they're looking for people who've kind of been there, done that. So the ATS can help them skim for that relatively quickly. And this means that the more targeted your resume is to a particular role, the better. So things like having keywords from the job ad that are incorporated into your resume can help you stand out. This is what marketing to the role means. And when I refer to that throughout today's presentation, that's what I'm talking about. And right now, from the employer's perspective, they are getting flooded with near identical resumes. The reality is a lot of folks are embracing AI. They're using it to stand out in their resumes. And so now it's almost like the baseline got better. Before, resumes may have been like not very good. Most of my friends that hire or recruiting friends would say, "Oh, you should see the terrible resumes we get. They're just awful." That was a very common conversation, probably until about a year and a half ago. Now, what I hear is they all look the same. Clearly, everyone's using AI, so they all look good, but that doesn't mean that they're doing what they say they are. It doesn't mean they can write as good as their resume looks. And it's impossible to really see who's better because they all look and sound the same. So it's important to learn how to use AI to stand out from this crowd. There's also a lot of security concerns that go into AI, both on the employer side as well as on your own side. There are fake candidates operating at scale. 17% of US managers have had a fake applicant literally lip syncing through an interview, which is just mind blowing to me. I've been in HR and this space now for, gosh, over 20 years. I never would have thought I'd see stuff like this. There was also an article circulating this summer that there were fake IT workers linked to North Korea, and that more than 300 US companies had unknowingly hired fake remote IT workers, which is also just mind blowing. The use of stolen or fabricated identities is off the charts. There's folks throughout the US being hired remotely. I cited an article in here if you would like to learn more about this. These folks could gain access to company systems as soon as the interview process. This can potentially include data and payroll, which is really scary. So this has created a heightened need for verification. We're seeing more reference checks, more in-person interviews, a lot more live tests, a lot more of these. I'm hearing more and more from my clients, and also referrals. So let's talk about what not to do with AI. We will later get into things to use AI for, and I'm going to have two very different process examples of how I've used it with clients or coach them to use it for themselves. But I think one of the first things is please do not copy and paste the entire document. You could put in your LinkedIn profile and a job ad and say, okay, chat, create a resume for me, and even format it in a resume. That is not what I would do at all. It's not going to help you stand out. You'll look the same as everyone else that did that. And there's really nothing special about that to make you stand out on paper. It also, I'll be honest, I just don't, this may change, and maybe there's one that's already on the market out there that I'm not aware of yet. I don't like their templates. Like, I'm still a fan of Microsoft Word templates, of things that are really steered towards the personal brand that you want it to be. I find the ones that AI spits out are just like not impressive at all. And so that's another reason I wouldn't be a fan of that. Robotic pros can come through. If you use AI a lot and do the copy paste job, even in sections, it may not sound like you, it may not look real, it may just sound very robotic. So I would be very leery of using that type of prose if that's what AI is suggesting that you use. Also, incorrect or exaggerated information. I think I have a example one time of I was looking to go kayaking somewhere and where chat told me to go like didn't exist at all. Like AI is not completely foolproof yet. Like it has mistakes, it doesn't know everything, especially for smaller businesses or private companies where there's not as much data available on the internet or for instance. So you just need to be careful that you're using the correct information. Also, if you ask AI to help you with an ATS score, sometimes it's really helpful with that, but other times there's just bizarre and inappropriate uses of keywords that don't even make sense in the sentence, or they're placed somewhere where strategically it makes no sense at all, simply to increase the score. Be careful of that. Also, omitting personal details and accomplishments. This is the number one problem I see with everyone's resume is that typically there's not enough of a story element or enough of personal accomplishments included. And I'll have folks say, well, I don't have access to that information, or I don't quite know what that is. And I'm like, if you think long and hard enough about it, most people have access to something if they really sit down to think about it. Even like kids running a lawn mowing business can talk about year over year growth or how they invested in equipment to make something 20% faster. There's really small ways we can stand out with accomplishments on a resume. And if AI isn't fed this information by you, there's definitely no way it can include it. So your resume looks all the more generic. Another thing that a lot of folks worry about, and I'm not an expert, I'm not an attorney, I'm not in IT. And so I just know that this is a concern and it's something you should look into, which is sharing confidential information with AI. I think it'll be really, really interesting to see how private companies navigate this with their policies. So, for instance, if you're sharing confidential information about your employer in AI, for the sake of your resume, you do need to be concerned and aware of what your IT policies are in terms of sharing that type of information because now you've put it out there and it's out there. I've had some people say, well, if you have the paid version, you're more protected. Again, I'm not an expert in those matters, and I don't think anyone really is. There's not case law on this yet. There's not a lot of US laws on the books. This is one of those things that it's going to be kind of a wait and see, but definitely just be really cautious of what you put in there. For instance, if you know your revenue, you don't need to feed that into AI if it's not publicly available. That's something that you yourself can update on your resume. You could give it a fake placeholder number or things like that. So just be really careful of sharing confidential information, especially anything related to IP. A lack of formatting or a brand. I think I mentioned this, dislike their templates and the look and feel. They're not impressive. So I think it's important to do the work and put your items into your own Word document. There are websites like Job Search Journey or Distinctive Resumes. You can Google those. You can also look on Etsy or, just look up Google professional resume templates, for example. There's a lot of other templates out there, even right within Microsoft Word, that will let you use a template and you can work off of that to put your information into rather than having AI generated. I just think that that's a better way to stand out from a branding perspective. Some other don'ts are the improper use of buzzwords. Sometimes when I feed things into AI, it comes back with just so many buzzwords that I'm like, nobody talks like this. Nobody's resumes actually have this. And so if someone doesn't have the right discernment or decision making and they just put it in there, you're going to end up not looking impressive because a recruiter who really knows the job or knows the industry will see through that. as well as relying on AI to look up numbers without verification. This is one that I've fallen into quite a bit. Like, if you don't cross check it with Google, you can't guarantee that what is in AI is the actual revenue or size of the company. And so it's really important that you do that, because if you're not aware yourself of what it is, maybe you worked there like 5 years ago and you don't remember anymore. If you put something that really doesn't add up, others may see through that or be like, well, why did you put that? Like, everyone knows, like, they just had a massive like revenue hit or whatever it might be. It's just, don't rely on AI. Be sure to verify things. Another really common one that I see, especially with cover letters, is really strong style differences between your own content and AI generated tips. So I might see a cover letter that's like very generic, has, some things the client written in, and then they have these very like kind of out of left field specific clauses or paragraphs that clearly AI came up with. Like, you can tell one person wrote this section, somebody else wrote this section, now we have something else going on down here. There's just strong style differences, a strong difference in like how they're written. That is important to not do. So you want to make sure that you keep your writing style consistent if you're using AI to help you. There's also just the lack of common sense because AI said it. Like, you put something in there and it's like, it doesn't even make sense. And you just didn't even think through it because you're just flying through the motions to update your resume. The overuse of tasks and soft skills that don't matter. AI does this a lot if you're not using the right prompts. If you put in your current resume and maybe a job ad and you ask AI to generate a resume for you, I can almost guarantee it will be very focused on tasks as well as soft skills. And it's okay to have a couple soft skills on the resume, but your resume really needs to focus more on accomplishments. And so things like strong communicator, detail oriented, we don't want those on your resume. I want you to give me a bullet that explains how your communication skills helped something, how it led to growth, how it led to a project win. I want your detail orientation to be evident through like excellent process documentation that made something more easily trainable. Those are the types of things that I want to see. And AI won't do that unless you're giving it the right prompts. And then sometimes AI will just skip regional or cultural customization. I think one time I put it in and it put like a fake photo on the resume. We don't use those in the US outside of like typically the entertainment industry. It's just not advisable or best practice. And so there could be something like that that AI does. And if you haven't done the research to kind of know that yourself, you might stand out in a negative way on paper by doing that. AI can't typically tell a story or give a strategy. It might help with it, especially with the right prompts, but ultimately, you are in charge of your brand, you're in charge of your resume, and you need to have a sense of where you want to go and why and how you want to market yourself. And so that's up to you to use the prompts to help you with that, but certainly not rely on it. So all of these no's, it's like, okay, then how do I use it to help me, Nikki? There are so many ways that you can use AI to help you. So for instance, you can get up to speed on keywords or prose norms. Maybe you're currently in the medical industry and you want to switch to higher ed. You can ask AI, tell me what the keywords are in higher ed. Tell me how higher ed resumes typically look compared to I've been a nurse in public health, for instance. You can definitely do some deep dives into the needs of roles of interest. Like, tell me what this VP of HR role needs. What are some KPIs that the person hired in this role would be measured on at their 1 year review? Like, where does this industry see its current challenges? What are some ways I could stand out on paper? Give me a SWOT analysis of this current organization. What are you able to decipher from these 5 LinkedIn profiles of their leaders that, they might be looking for in candidates based on these 10 people they hired them? There's so many different things you can do to help find out more about the needs of a role. Go for it. That's what AI is there for. It can also help you do a competitive analysis of other candidates. I think it's really important if you're going through the job search to familiarize yourself with the types of people who might apply so you can help figure out how to stand out. So I'll a lot of times have people tell me, I know I could do this job. Like, I know based on my background that this may not look like it on paper, but these are the same sort of things. This is what I could do. I'm really good at this. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you think your competition looks like? Because let's put the employer lens on. Like, for instance, maybe somebody wants to switch to nonprofit. They've been working in sales, they're really good at business development, they're great at relationship building, and they're like, yep, I'm tired of sales. I want to go be a development director at this nonprofit I'm super passionate about. I have no volunteer experience, no board experience, but I just know I could do a good job because I'm good at this. That's the type of thing where I would say, "Okay, well, what do you think the competitors are like?" And people might look blank, like, "I don't know, like, how am I supposed to know?" That is where I would use AI to say, "What does the typical applicant pool look like for a director of development role at a nonprofit?" And then you do some deep dives there. Then maybe you upload your current resume and say, okay, what transferable skills do I have? But equally, what are my weaknesses and what are some ways I could get around that? AI is not going to give you the answers on all of these. I'm a huge fan of validating information with hiring managers, with folks actually working the job. But it will give you a sense of, huh, there's a lot of people out there with experience in this particular area. Or maybe this particular software program for this tech company is really what people have and would help me stand out. You want to get familiar with what those potential opportunities are, what your weaknesses are, and come up with a strategy to get around it so that you can meet your goals. I love to use AI to come up with lists of common KPIs and accomplishments that you should focus on. KPIs, if you're not familiar with the term, are known, I think it's known performance indicators or something like that. I've heard it referred to a couple different ways. To me, it's essentially the metrics that someone uses to make sure that you're successfully doing the job. So an easy one would be if you're in sales, like, did you increase revenue by the goal was 15% this year, for instance? Maybe in operations, they want you to cut the labor hours by 10%. I don't know what it may be. It differs by role, but it's essentially how are they measuring success? This varies by industry, it varies by function, it varies by what level you're at in an organization. But you can use AI to help you focus on what sort of KPIs an organization may be looking for so that you can incorporate those into your resume to be more targeted and marketed to their needs. It can always help you with stronger wording. I have a strong writing background. I have certifications in it. I considered myself a pretty strong resume writer. I'm still impressed and blown away by the amount of different ways that AI can tweak things to make them stand out even more. And so I love using it for that. And I think if you use it for nothing else, it will help you look stronger from a writing perspective. It definitely helps with ideas as well as industry or organizational research to identify common needs. All of these are things that you can use AI for when it comes to researching what to put on your resume and why you might want to put it on your resume. Some other big do's are proofreading. It can catch grammar errors, it can catch things that don't make sense. I'm a big fan of putting it in section by section, even putting the entire document in, asking it to proofread it. Where might you make something better? You could also look for ways to find visual examples. Maybe you want to put in a small graph, maybe a really small graphic as part of your brand. It can help you find places to do that. You can also elevate your game. I'm going to have two process examples in a little bit that will show you specific ways you can do this. It can help you with your ATS score. Some websites that are good for this are SkillSyncer and JobScan. They too incorporate AI into their process. And so I think those can be really good to here's the job ad, here's my current resume, what's my keyword score, where am I lacking, where can I do better? And it will actually coach you through how to improve that score. And oftentimes, the more marketed towards the position you are, the more likely you are to be picked up by the ATS and to be passed on to a hiring manager. So let's say a hiring manager or even recruiter posted a position and they got 300 applicants. They don't have time to review all of those one by one. So they may tell their system, show me the top 25% of candidates. And that maybe gives them a number. They from there look at it and they narrow it down and they interview maybe the top 20 that they liked, whatever those numbers may be. But that means that other 75% of the pile was never even viewed because they don't have time to do that. So the more of a good job you can do tailoring yourself to a job, the better, because it's the more likely that you will be viewed by someone. Now, every company is different. Every process is different. They may have internal referral links. Folks might be networking. There might be something in particular that they're looking for on a resume and you're not even aware of it. So this isn't like this 100% guaranteed. If you do this and your score is 100%, you're guaranteed to get an interview request. It doesn't really work like that. There's so many unknowns that go on behind the scenes in a hiring process. But what we do know is the more targeted to a position you are, the more interested an employer will be in you. So it's your duty to try to do that in order to stand out. I love how much time you can save, especially when you're editing to different jobs. Let's say I had someone who was an office manager and they've done social media posts for their small business. They've helped with marketing. They have some really good numbers to back it up, but equally, they've run payroll, they've done benefits, and they've really enjoyed the HR side of things. So as they're out there applying to jobs, they've actually developed two different resumes, one for positions that involve marketing and others for positions that involve HR. From there, they can use AI each time to help it stand out that much more for each specific marketing or HR role, for instance. So that's one where I think it really saves time and can help you do that pretty quickly. Some resources, I use ChatGPT. There's a lot of different ones out there. Some specific resume ones I listed here: Resume, Make, JobScan, Zeti, Enhance CV. I do not have personal experiences with any of these besides JobScan because I personally like using ChatGPT to get the ideas, to get the information, to compare things, and I go back to Word and do things manually. I'm still a fan of that because I've tried some other ones that promise to do all of these. Resume Genius was one I used to use, and I've just never found their formatting to be as impressive as some of the Word ones I've created myself or have purchased from websites. So that's just my personal opinion. Depending on your situation, you may find that one of these works just fine for your needs. That's up to you and your goals and if you're getting interview callbacks. I think it can be really helpful for evaluating your sentence structures and your branding consistency. And if you want to create small images, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of images on resumes, but let's say you're in sales and you want a graph that kind of showcases how you drove growth, or maybe you want to create your own like small logo to put on the header to just stand out. Maybe you have a tagline and you're applying to creative roles and you want to make that like in a fun, pretty way and put it on the header of your resume, it can be helpful for some things like that. So my approach, I'm going to go through the first example. It's very, very different than the second example I'll go through later. So I don't want you to think that this is like the best way to do it or the only way. I want to go through two very different ways of using AI to help you so that you can start to think of ideas on your own end in ways that might help you. So let's say I'm working with a client. I might upload their current resume and maybe or probably both their LinkedIn profile and 3 job ad links that they really like, and ask AI to let me know where they're lacking. Right here, I'm just looking purely for where do they not stand out? What does the competition have that they don't have? Like, show me all the weaknesses. I'm a big fan of that when I'm doing resumes because it's just how my brain works. And so then I may also ask AI, what KPIs are standard on the job ad link submitted? Like, what are these jobs looking for? Like, what are proven results? What are proven successes? What do they want this person to actually do? How will they be measured on that? And start to get a feel for what those jobs really need. From there, I'll create a strategy for a client based on their background as well as where they're going. I will write the resume with the information and results on hand. I didn't use AI to write anything. I didn't really ask it for anything other than weaknesses, things to be aware of, and ways to stand out. And so I'm doing all of that with my own resume background. So I write it, and let's say there's some areas I'm not sure if they have a number for this, or I don't know if they've ever actually done this particular skill. I'm just going to put some placeholders in because I know these are some things that they may have or should have. And then I'll use AI findings for challenges and add later areas. So I might put my resume in and say, okay, how does this look so far? Like, what else can I do to stand out for what these job ads are looking for? And AI will maybe spit out like 20 different things, like you're missing this, or did you think about this? And it goes through things. And so I go through their recommendations and make some more changes to the resume. Now I'm like, okay, I had a strategy for my resume. I'm really targeted on where this client is going. I feel really good about meeting the needs of the job. I just want to know, like, could I write it better? Could it be stronger? So I will copy and paste my work, no more than a few sentences at a time, to simply ask for language improvements. I have found if you put the whole resume in and say, could I make any of this wording better? It just is never as strong as when I do it little by little. So I do it section by section. Give me 3 examples of ways to make the summary better for a resume. And then I'll see what it spits out, and I'll use some combo of all 3, or maybe I really like one. I won't put in the entire position and everything about it. I'll say, is there anything about these 4 bullets that we can reword to make them stronger on a resume? Those are the sort of things I do. I consider that to be like micro, like I'm really looking for that needle in the haystack, like a microscope or a magnifying glass, to just in small doses, how do I make this better? Because my personal experience with AI is when I do that is when I get the best results. And so I make those refinements and I make the updates to the resume as desired. I do not apply, like, I use a resume writing best practices that I'm familiar with from my training and education. You can find out what those are from resume books, from AI, etc. I do not rely on AI for the final product whatsoever, because I know what they should have, and I've yet to find AI be perfect at that. AI helps save me time, it helps me generate ideas, but it's never the final draft or anywhere close to it. I again use my training and background to kind of make sure it's perfect. And I also highly recommend, if you're doing this process yourself and you're not working with a coach or a writer, which, let's be real, most people aren't, ask for someone who's a human to view it. Ask for your friend who's in recruiting, or ask for your buddy you went to college with that's a hiring manager. Never rely just on AI or yourself, because you want to see it through the lens of somebody else who's completely unfamiliar with the situation, to just make sure it looks really strong on paper. I think it's super interesting and important to talk about the fact that some employers have banned the use of AI. And this comes up a lot. Clients are sometimes terrified to use AI because of some of these bans. So up until July of this year, Anthropic, which is the AI company behind the tool Claude, banned the use of AI in applications. It actually flat out said, like, you cannot use AI to generate your resume, to help with interviews, with anything. Like, you were supposed to like sign off saying you didn't use AI in any fashion. Well, that changed in July, and it now allows it with some limits and transparency, such as like you can't use it during actual interview answers or if you're taking a live test, but like it's okay to use it to help with your resume, or it's okay to use it to help with prep. Goldman Sachs prohibits the use of AI during interviews. So let's say you're doing like an AI interview and you have this robot asking you these questions. You can't use AI to help you generate answers or to be doing that throughout the actual live interview process. Amazon has the same type of requirement. It is ironic. Goldman in particular has been criticized for the heavy use of AI for their employees, anything from summarizing emails to coding assistance. So there has been some pushback with how strict some of these policies have been. Um, this is a really tough one, and I think that things will continue to kind of change and evolve here because the detection isn't forensic. Like it's not like an ATS system out there can tell, oh, this sentence was entirely developed by AI, or I can tell that this resume was completely written by AI. Recruiters are looking for cues, inconsistencies, or weird responses. Like my hiring manager friends will say, well, we just know it was written by AI. Like we got 20 that all looked the same. Nothing was different about any of them. The same template, the same look and feel, the exact same sentence structure. Like obviously they used AI, or their cover letter didn't match the tone of their resume whatsoever. It's clear they just spit this into AI and didn't even try. Now, again, I'm not an IT expert, so I've often wondered, like, can they tell if you copy and paste it over from Word? Like, things have evolved so quickly that I'm always curious on those fronts. But from doing the research for this presentation, to date, there's no like software claiming they can detect if you used AI on your application process. It's usually like weird responses or like buzzwords or just things that don't make sense that they can tell you used AI. I will get a lot of pushback from folks, and it's fair. I get where they're coming from. There are ads, it right in the job description that will say you cannot use AI in any way whatsoever. Like you need to write your own cover letter, you need to write your own resume. We're measuring you based on like your skills and talents, and like that's just absolutely not allowed. I always kind of chuckle because I'm like, well, I guess I kind of get where they're coming from, but the ethics on this to me are really delicate because, for instance, I've been writing resumes for, nearly 8 to 10 years. I always use Google for ideas. I own like shelves of resume books that I would refer to for like ideas, examples, when I got stuck with something. There were websites with blogs, like resume writers would have ideas. Like if you follow any of the writers on LinkedIn, they give like specific ideas of bullets and things like that. And those were all things that I used before. And so to me, I don't know how AI really differs from using these sources or from even hiring a professional resume writer. So if you hire a resume writer from like one of the big places, like maybe somebody who does executive resume writing, for instance. We're talking like CEOs, like VPs of Fortune 100 companies. These are huge processes and a huge investment. They will have one party do a deep interview on your accomplishments, your background, everything about your entire work story. They will create a rough draft with a professionally designed template. Once they do that, they actually hand it off to a professional proofreader. Then they give it to you as the client, and then you can go through 2 rounds of revisions. There have been people hiring professional resume writers for years. They still do to this day. Even with AI, the profession has not gone away. There's always predictions it might. And so I think from an ethical standpoint, it's always hard for me when that's in a job ad to say that you won't use it at all, because I get not using it to do the whole thing from start to finish and not trying at all. But it's kind of hard to not use it in some fashion, because if you don't, and the competition is like, are you sure you're standing out as much as you can? Are like, even if you're just using it for ways of like, what KPIs do they need? Like anything that you use AI for, technically by their wording, can sometimes scare folks off to the point they don't use it. I guess in those cases, I would definitely look back to Google, books, websites, things like I used to use. I just find AI makes it all tremendously faster than it ever used to be. Or you could hire a professional resume writer if you're really worried, like, I don't want to rely on AI, but I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't have time to, spend 20 hours researching this. It doesn't say anything about not allowing professional resume writers. All of these different ethical things are kind of interesting, and we'll see, time will tell on the actual, decision making on this. But I definitely just think when you read those statements, think about what they really mean. Think about, like, am I gonna have to sit down for a lie detector test? Or like, do they mean me doing it from start to finish? Can I use it for research? Could I use it for ideas? Is it okay to just copy and paste a couple sections in and look for wording enhancement? Like, what do they mean by that? Maybe check with the employer before applying, ask for some clarification on the information that and prohibitions they have in their ad. That would probably be ways that I would go about that. But these policies are ultimately part of a bigger concern, which is what we're really here today to discuss, which is, how do you use AI to stand out? And that is that at the end of the day, authenticity and real-time judgment matter. So you need to have an authentic resume that represents your brand. It tells your story with your accomplishments. You need to be the end judge of what goes on there and why. And I would challenge, if you're completely not sure, then are you the right person for their job? Because ultimately you're applying to a job for something an employer needs. And if you want that job and you want to be the top candidate for it, you really need to put on your employer lens and think about, what do they need and why, and how do I prove to them that I can do that for them? And so I think being able to do that in a way that's compelling and makes you stand out. AI can't make up your metrics. AI can't make up your story. Like, you need to be the voice of that, and you can use it to help you. But now that pretty much most people's resumes have all gotten tremendously better than they were before AI, it becomes all the more important to stand out on a resume because the baseline's better, and all the more important to network because everyone's resumes look better thanks to AI. And so I think Anthropic's policy evolution is really assigned to a more nuanced approach. I think it's great to use it as a tool collaboratively, but it's never a substitute for human decision making and end products. Prompt tools are really helpful. My personal belief is the best tools for prompts to put into AI are actually you. They're not me, they're not some guide, they're not some guru on the internet, because ultimately it's your profession, your industry, your goals, your dream, like your interest in a company. And I think for your ability to be the best candidate, you need to be able to really think critically and creatively about what they may need, how to showcase yourself for that, etc. So I think the tools that you use are going to be what matters the most. And I also think it's really helpful to use AI to get started and to keep going until you get to where you want it. So in all honesty, my very best work with AI is usually after like 8 rounds of prompts. Constructive feedback, like I sometimes I'm and depending on like the day or how great AI is spitting things out, I might be like, I hate that. Like, that doesn't sound at all like what you had 3 prompts ago. Like, I want that. Or, this sounds way too formal. Like, where's the Midwest nice in it? Or this is a marketing role and the resume reads like a CPA. Like, we need this to be more creative, to be more focused on like the leadership expectations that this role has, etc. Those are, yes, DreamBank raised their hand. Go ahead.
I did not mean to raise my hand.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Um, so those are just some examples that I have for how to use AI to help. So you want to give it those tools, not AI. And so that's where everyone may be using AI, but we're all using it differently and we all think differently. And so the more creative and the more like specific you get with the prompts you want to give it, the more it will help you. I love this. To me is, I mean, maybe everyone else knew this, but when I started doing this, this is when I found my resumes and cover letters or LinkedIn profiles really got a lot stronger. Cite experts. So, for example, I have a resume cheat sheet. I'll put that into AI and say, okay, help make this resume better based on the things that I talk about in my resume cheat sheet. Or I love to put in articles or resume tips from experts. So the book Resumes for Dummies is a great book. I may say, use the principles in Resumes for Dummies to help me identify 10 ways to make this resume stronger, or use professional resume writers. So Sarah Johnston of Briefcase Coach, who also runs the site Job Search Briefcase, or whichever one I referred to earlier, Job Search Journey, that has the resume templates. She's on LinkedIn a lot. And so she's public. Her stuff, you don't have to be connected with her. You can just follow her. And she gives incredible advice about resumes. She's an executive resume writer, so she would be one who's kind of like the process I described earlier, where they employ proofreaders and like it's this lengthy process. Not everyone has the time, let alone the budget for that, nor is it always necessary for folks, depending on like what the labor market's like for their area. But if you ask chat, like, give me 20 ways to make this resume better based on Sarah Johnston, and you copy her LinkedIn profile in, AI will go back and like read her posts and take her kind of approach and give you examples specifically based on one of the best resume writers on how to make it better. So I find that when I cite experts like that, or put in articles, put in websites, etc., it really can go that much deeper with some of the feedback it gives me. So I'm a big fan of that. And if you take nothing else away from today, just start asking chat for to use Sarah Johnston's advice. And I think you'll find that that alone will get you so much further than where you were. So this is an entirely different sample process, which I hope helps you see just how widely different all of us might be using AI for our resumes. I hope it sparks some ideas for how it can help you with your resume. So I would maybe start with uploading my current resume and or LinkedIn profile, then uploading the last 3 years of my performance reviews. Then I would also upload my brag file. This is all of the emails from clients, coworkers, my supervisor, thanking me for doing a great job, giving me an extra pat on the back for a really challenging week, all of the accolades, the awards, the company or department wins, the newspaper articles, the PR announcements, any major KPIs or wins, any bonuses attained, like all the wins, all the things. I would upload all of that into AI, and then 3 job ads that I like. If they're super different, like the example of the office manager with like HR or marketing, this would be 2 different processes because you are going to want job ads that are relatively similar to make this helpful, because otherwise it gets too scattered. So I'm gonna find like 3 different ads that are, all in the same function, same industry, or all marketing specific, whatever it may be for what your job search goals are. But I'll upload 3 of those, and then I'll just ask AI, all I want right now is just 20 ways I could stand out more in my resume. That's it. And so then I make my resume edits accordingly. Okay, so now I'm going to tell AI, I want you to incorporate the Ryberg Group's resume cheat sheet and the resume philosophies of Sarah Johnston of Job Search Briefcase. I would attach her website. I would attach her LinkedIn profile. I would possibly even attach my own website, as well as any other like resume documents that I have. And then I would reattach the edited resume and ask for feedback on each of my bullets. It's going to spew out all kinds of information to me. I'm going to pick and choose which ones I like, make edits accordingly. From there, I'm going to copy and paste section by section, one by one, and ask for it, can you reword this to make it any stronger in resume writing, like prose? Give me 3 examples. And then I'm going to pick a match of them, or maybe one will really stand out, and I'll edit each section accordingly. Then, after I've done all of this, I'm going to ask AI for the top 8 KPIs of the job ads of interest that, somebody would expect a hire to achieve. I am purposely making this clunky. Now, one may say, why didn't you put the KPIs in way earlier, Nikki? You're a little far along in the process. Like, you're already editing the wording, you're fine tuning things. Like, this seems kind of silly. I actually do that on purpose because I have found that AI produces better results when I do vary it up and I do get it a little more clunky like that. I don't know why. I just find that it gives like different ideas that way, and I just love how it spits things out in a way that like makes me think. So from there, it's going to give some suggestions, and I'm going to edit my resume. Maybe I switch out some bullets based on I don't have enough stuff about budgets or P&L in here, or I don't have enough stuff about the client satisfaction scores and things like that. So I'll make some more edits. And then I will ask AI, okay, compare the job ads of interest to this most up-to-date version and give me a keyword score. And then it will, and I'll say, where can I make some keyword score improvements? And I'm going to make some small edits as it makes sense. Like, I'm not going to do anything crazy. Sometimes I've heard folks say, oh, I put all the keywords into a text box at the bottom of the resume in white font so that I can like stand out with the ATS score and it's not even like viewable by a human. I mean, there's all sorts of like hacks and like urban legends out there on how to stand out for the ATS. I don't know. Some people swear by them. Most people say it doesn't work, but I'm just looking for common sense things. So I'm going to edit some accordingly. And then I'm going to tell AI anything else about myself that I think would help me stand out for the job and ask it how to incorporate into a resume with 3 different examples. So on my drive over here today, one example I thought of for this is maybe I've taken strength finders and I know like what my strengths are. And so now at the tail end of the process, I say, okay, based on the fact that my strengths are A, B, and C, is there anything else in this resume I could fine tune to make that stand out to help further sell me? Or maybe I have like a personal interest or passion to the industry. And I'm like, okay, I worked in the outdoor space for 5 years. It's not necessarily on my resume, but like this is helpful for the product companies I'm applying to. What are 3 different ways I could weave that in? There's so many different things, unlimited ideas you could do here, but this is where you can really start to get creative. Make me sound more in line with the higher education industry, make me look favorable to a startup environment, make this look good for state government. There's, again, unlimited, but at the tail end, I'm going to ask for some different examples. Again, I'll make some more edits. So this is a lot. As to get kind of philosophical here, to me, there is no right or wrong way to use this tool besides completely lazy or unethical ways per job postings. Again, the ethics of, quote, not using it at all to help do your resume. I think if you see those 2 examples that I gave, that is probably so much more thought, detail, and effort one put into a resume than ever before. Like, I never would have done stuff like that pre-AI because frankly, who would have time? I mean, to even pay a professional to spend that many hours on something would be out of 99% of the country's budget because it would take a significant amount of time to have done that manually. With AI, it's doable because it's a lot faster. So, I mean, I kind of argue, is that really using AI to write your resume? To me, it's just using it for research. But again, you need to follow like the best practice of your industry, your function, where you're applying that type of thing. You can use it in the lazy way of just spit out this resume. I'm not going to put any effort, any thought, any extra into it and just start applying in mass. Like that's not the greatest way to use AI. So that's just my personal opinion. But the more creative the prompt and the more you build upon it, the better your final product will be. I think my 2 different examples of processes showed you just how drastically different prompts can be, where things can end up, my opinion of making things clunky on purpose. I just think that the more creative you get, the better. And then it's super helpful with editing it to a variety of roles. So that office manager example of marketing or HR after being an office manager. It can really help you fine tune those keywords in a really quick way that I think it's super helpful for that. If you are looking for more ideas, my friend and fellow career coach, Julie Vincent of Brand New Day, has a resume prompts for AI guide available. It's completely free. The website's here. DreamBank is more than welcome to put this into the chat. There's no strings attached. She's just someone who's in my like a monthly colleague circle that I have, and I talked about how I was doing this presentation, and she mentioned that she had this free guide, and I'm like, I'll throw it in there because again, the more creative you can get with prompts, the better. And so she has done one to help people that are like, I don't know where to start. Like, that's great for you, Nikki. Like, you do this all the time. I would have no clue where to start with prompts. I strongly suggest taking a look at her guide or Googling it to see if others have resume prompts available out there and start there if you're not sure where to start, if you didn't get ideas from today's presentation. So I just want to remind everyone that authenticity wins every time. The personal touches, the accomplishments that you put on your resume, that's what helps cut through the noise. Tell a story, show the context, give unique value markers such as I'm a CPA with SaaS implementation experience. Have some personal brand touches and taglines. Put links to portfolios or work samples, have some testimonials on there. These are all ways that you can stand out above and beyond the crowd who's now all starting to look the same. And so thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I've left a few minutes for questions. Follow me on LinkedIn. I put stuff about AI and resumes out there all the time. So Madeline, do we have time for a few questions?
We do have a few questions. One came up early in the chat, not the chat, but in the presentation. How do you feel about using Canva for templates?
I still don't like it. It's not read very easily by ATS. So the best practice with resumes is still Word. Google, if you do use Google Docs because you don't have Microsoft Word, always attach it as a PDF because it comes through really clunky. And Canva itself is typically spit out by the ATS because there's so many graphics and images that go into it that it's not ATS friendly. Now, if you're in a creative field, such as like graphic design or potentially even marketing, if you're able to network with someone and give them a copy of it that way, then I would be okay with it. But having worked with clients over the years, the spacing stinks. You can't get as much like words on the page as you probably could in Word, and it's really not easy to tweak. So I'm a fan of it for bios. Or potentially even a really creative cover letter, but not a resume. That's my opinion, and that's best practice. Oh, I think you're muted.
A few people asked for what like you think a good view of a resume is, and I know that we have less than 2 minutes, not view, but like what a good resume looks like. So do you have a place for people to go like see an example of a good one, or if you have one like super readily available to show?
I would go to Job Search Journey is a good website for like strong resume templates, the look and feel. And honestly, right now I'm doing this presentation for my local library. The book Resumes for Dummies is still the gold standard. The person who wrote that book is like one of the best resume writers in the country. And there are fantastic examples in there for resumes from entry level up through executive. I would go there to see what a good one looks like.
All right, that kind of brings us right up to the end of our time. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know this was just info packed. And so thank you. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Until next time, friends.
Thank you.